Right, well here's part 3 then, some basic things that I keep in my car. Some of them all the time, some of them just specifically for winter. Obviously I've got a top box on my car, so this is where all my things get thrown in. You've probably got a boot in your car. I haven't. As you can see, got very much of a boot space on the old Jimny, so I like to keep this limited space free and put all this kind of stuff up in my top box. But to be honest, as you'll see, it doesn't take up any room at all. It would go in a very small carrier bag, and then you just wrap it up with a bit of rope or a bit of string, and just keep it in the back of your boot or the back of your top box. One of the basic things that I always carry, winter, summer or whatever, is my trusty old Swiss Army knife. Now lots of people have a Leatherman or some other kind of work tool which is about the same size of a Swiss Army knife. Excellent piece of kit. It's got a knife, got scissors, got a pair of pliers, got several screwdrivers, and so on and so forth. So always, really, you should have one of these in your glove box. The obligatory first aid kit. Always got a first aid kit in here, winter or summer, so there again, very basic. Now's a good time to check it though and see if anything needs replenishing. Winter coming up, so a good thing to have is obviously a scraper. Now, how many times have you tried to scrape your windscreen using one of your credit cards, only to find out that then you damage your credit card and it's no good when you come to use it for its designated purpose? So a scraper. In the glove box, not very many people these days carry these, but what else would you expect to find in your glove box? A pair of gloves. Okay. A torch. Now, I know that many people's mobile phones also double up as a torch, but in an emergency, especially in the winter time, you may require your limited battery power in your phone specifically to make emergency phone calls. So it's good to have a proper torch. Now this one doesn't rely on batteries. It's a wind-up jobby, which again, excellent. So it winds itself up, or you wind it up, and it produces its own power, and then you have a torch that will never run out. Very useful. We all have mobile phones now, I'm sure, and what I like to do is also have a backup. So I have a very cheap mobile phone, and it really is a cheap old one that I had. Make sure it's 100% charged, and inside there is a pay-as-you-go SIM, which the credit is carried over month after month after month. So to be honest, if you never use it, you'll always have it with some credit on. I've got £10 worth of credit on there. I tend to use Vodafone because Vodafone seems to be the network that's available no matter where you are, especially in the country or in the region. You may wish to argue with that, if you like, in a nice way, but I have to say, out of all the networks I've used, Vodafone seems to be the one that has never let me down, and I've always managed to get some kind of reception no matter where I am. So a pay-as-you-go phone or pay-as-you-go SIM card and a cheap phone, always keep that in your glove box in case yours, that you carry about every day no doubt and use it for all and sundry, lets you down. There it is. Another thing I keep in my car is an emergency blanket, or some people call them space blankets. These are the kind of things that you see people getting wrapped up in at the finish of a marathon race or some other sporting event on TV. They're huge sheets of sort of tin foil, emergency blankets. They're very cheap to buy. I think you can buy them from the pound shop, and believe it or not, they're £1. This one's called an emergency blanket, and it could save your life. Now I keep 2 of these in the car because the majority of the time there's 2 of us in here. There's Alex and myself. I have actually cooked my Christmas turkey in one of these, and hopefully at some point I might actually put a video up here and show you how that turned out. So a space blanket or emergency blanket, very useful and life-saving piece of kit. In here I have a selection of bulbs, of light bulbs for my indicators, stop lights, ordinary lights and headlights. Now it is actually a requirement of law to have spare bulbs in your car. Should you get stopped by a policeman for not having a tail light, for instance, or brake light, they could give you a ticket and fine you because you should have spare bulbs. So now's the time to find out what kind of bulbs you've got in your car and get some spares. You can actually buy specific kits from most sort of car spares outlets or garages. I think Halfords did quite a comprehensive little kit worth having. I always like to carry some zip ties. These have saved me from disaster many a times. You can use them to tie up all sorts of things. Anything that breaks loose or comes off or snaps off or whatever, zip ties are there to help you. Very basic bit of kit, but it's in my car all the time. On the theme of gloves again, I have some disposable gloves. Okay, these are sort of surgical disposable gloves, but you can get sort of polythene or plastic ones. In actual fact, you can get them from every petrol garage, usually by the diesel pump, by the tissues and the bins. They have a selection of disposable plastic gloves, so grab yourself a handful of those and keep those in your dashboard. What you don't want to be doing at some point is changing your tyre or wheel and getting your hands all grubbed and sludged up and oiled up, and then have to drive your car, therefore spreading that all over the steering wheel and the knobs and dials and gear stick and so on and so forth, and getting on your clothes and a whole host of other sort of things. So disposable gloves, keep those. Should probably be in the first aid kit, but just in case they aren't, and it's always good to have a supply. Tissues or cleansing wipes or alcohol wipes, or these are called alcohol-free emergency medical wipes. Always keep some of these in your car because you never know when you might need them. I carry a selection of plasters and wipes in my car because Alex is a bit of a BMX and skateboard fan and scooter fan, and at times we've been to the skate park and I've not only had to produce a plaster and a wipe and a bandage for him, but also for his friends. I've lost count, so I always carry a lot of those on there. But useful. Again, you can get these from, I think you can get them from any McDonald's or KFC outlet, to be honest. Ask them for a handful of these and keep them in your dash. Useful bit of kit. What I always keep in here again, this is from my first aid days. I have in here what's called a resuscitate, and all it is should you ever require to give someone, God forbid, resuscitation, especially mouth-to-mouth resuscitation at any stage, then this is a protective barrier against them sort of vomiting in your face. Lovely sight. What a lovely image in your head, or any other sort of bodily fluids that come out. It's a clear plastic sheet with a little valve in the middle that goes in their mouth. You blow on this side, that goes in there, and it blows air in and prevents vomit and other debris coming into you. So if you're into first aid stuff, I'm sure you've probably got one of these or heard of them. It's not a kind of thing that's in your first aid box, but it is in my first aid box for my own personal protection. And last but not least is a very basic, and I have to say, in my case it is very basic, toolkit. All that's in here is a couple of screwdrivers, I think about 4 or 5 sockets for a socket set, and a pair of pliers. There's also a pair of very cheap jump leads in there, which I wouldn't want to use too often. I've got a heavy duty pair in the boot, but here's a sort of cheap pair that came with this. This was very cheap. I think it's under £10 this. It's got, as I say, a couple of sockets in there, some electrical tape, a pair of pliers, a tyre gauge, which we mentioned earlier on about tyres, some fuses, another pair of gloves which I've put in. It's very basic. At the end of the day, you're not going to be carrying a full extensive kit in your car. You know, you're not a mobile garage for after all. And you may already be a member of the RSC or AA, so hopefully they would come to your rescue anyway. But here are just a few basic things that I keep in my car that would hopefully get me out of most minor situations. One of the last things that I do keep in here at all times is a warm, waterproof coat. You may be wearing one anyway, but a lot of people go out in their car and just put the heater on and never actually wear a coat. So in your boot, I've just got a very cheap sort of industrial type waterproof and fleece-lined coat. So there you go, some very basic stuff that I keep in my car. To be honest, the majority of the time, but come winter time, I've lost count again on how many times I've actually called upon the services of some of those items. Hope that's been useful. If you've got some things that you think other people would find useful that you keep in your car or boot over the winter, or indeed in your car boot all year round, then as always, let me know, drop me a comment, let me know, and I'll read out these comments and tips and bits of advice that you've sent in to me and pass them on to the other subscribers. Bye bye for now.